Hello, my name is Brittney and this is Lisa. Lisa has a bachelor's degree in nursing, a master's degree in health education, and is a certified school nurse in the state of Pennsylvania. She directly oversees 2 elementary school health rooms and 2 health room nurses. She is also responsible for collaborating with school administrators and the other certified school nurses in the district. Lisa, do you give me permission to use this interview for my course?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. So in the first part of this course, we are discussing what it means to be a servant leader. What is your definition of a servant leader?
Well, actually I had to do a little research because I really had not heard the term servant leader much before. And so I did some research on it. It was very interesting what I found. I think what I found was that a servant leader is a servant first and a leader second, which is kind of the opposite of what you often think of leadership. You think of somebody in power and they're in charge, and the servant leader is someone who puts others first and not really interested in power so much as the well-being of others. So in this case, like in a school community, putting the students first, families, teachers, people that I work with. So that's kind of the definition of a servant leader.
Okay. Did you find it interesting to find that being a servant leader didn't necessarily mean someone in management? It just meant someone who portrays those servant qualities?
Yes, because you often think of a leader as somebody who, stands up and takes charge. And yet I have always felt that I've been, in different roles that I've had, as assistant nurse manager and different things. I've always felt more that leadership was more about setting a good example and having people want to follow you than about telling people what to do. And so it was interesting in researching this. It really kind of goes right along with my philosophy.
Okay. How would you describe your personal leadership strengths?
I think first of all, a leader has to be competent. A leader needs to know what they're doing in order to have other people follow them or to be able to learn from them. So I feel, with my nursing skills and my experiences in nursing, I feel very competent in what I do. So I think that's definitely a strength. In learning about the servant leader, I think I'm very empathetic and caring. That is just kind of my personality. And so that definitely is a strength in a servant leader. Listening to others I think I do that well. I'm kind of the type of person that people come up to in the grocery store and will tell me their life story. So, but that can be a strength. And the strength in developing relationships. Communication, I also think, is a big strength of mine. And I think that's important for a leader to be able to communicate. So those are some strengths that I think are
good. Yeah. Now you mentioned the relationships and developing good relationships with others and listening. As some of your strengths, what role do you allow fellow staff members to play in collaborating on decisions?
I think it's really important. I kind of view things as a team approach. So even if there is somebody, in the leadership role, I think the team is very important. I think everybody has an opinion and everybody should have a voice. So everybody has different strengths. So I think it's important that what role, I think everybody plays a very important role in collaborating. When we're coming to make a decision, or I think oftentimes, 2 heads are better than one, that old adage, and coming together and gathering ideas, you can come up with creative solutions to problems when you brainstorm together. So, sort of like for an example here, we were, kind of looking at how we give flu shots and what's the best way to do that, and can we make that process a little easier, and so that was one, just recently we were talking about, and everybody had, maybe we could do it this way, and maybe we could utilize this, and we, I came up with much better ideas with everybody working together.
Okay. Now you mentioned that everyone's opinion is important. Everyone can bring something to the table. Everyone comes from a different background and has different ideas. What do you think that you can do in your leadership role to empower others?
Well, I think first of all, just listening. Knowing people feel they're valued, then I think that empowers them there. I think also by promoting education, I think education's a strong way to give people power. So encouraging people, whether it be through in-services or, encouraging them to look things up on their own or telling them where they can find the information instead of just giving information out. I think that's an important way to empower others.
Okay. And I know sometimes going along with that, trusting those that are under you, because I know sometimes it can be difficult to let go of things and worry that maybe it's not going to be done the way that you would do it or the way you feel it should be done. How do you feel about that?
I think that's where it's important to, develop relationships and to know the people that you work with, because then you can know what their strengths are. So perhaps one nurse I work with is very organized. And so if I have a project or something that needs done, I may give that to her knowing that that is a strength of hers. Whereas somebody else may be better at, creativity and making bulletin boards or talking with students or something. So I think it's important to know people's strengths so that you can delegate tasks that will, work with their
And kind of allow them
skills.
to live up to their potential.
Yes.
Okay.
But at the same time, I think it's important to encourage people to grow
Right.
too and gain different strengths. So in the meantime, with not only just using not using people, but encouraging them to use their strengths, it's important to encourage them to build new strengths and gain new skills, whether it be through oftentimes through education or kind of mentoring, that sort of thing.
Okay. Speaking of education and the importance of keeping everyone informed, how do you handle suggestions and feedback when negotiating changes and improvements?
Well, I welcome them. I think it's important to hear other people's opinions, and often people have a different point of view and they have great ideas. But sometimes people are not so open to change. Not everybody likes change, so I think it's important to listen to people, but then also to explain the reasoning behind things and not just say, well, we're going to do it this way, but to explain the why behind it. Sometimes too, for example, like we're talking about going paperless, and perhaps people who have been here for a long time, that's not the way it's always been done, so it's hard to change. Well, that's not how we do it. So I think educating them, first of all, this is how it is, this is a new process or a new procedure, this is what we're going to do, and explaining the why behind it. And I think sometimes too, if you can find a benefit for that person, that's important. Going paperless will really, in the long run, save us time, and it'll save you time and make things easier. And then you get people's buy-in on the change.
And do you find that people are receptive to that when you involve them in the process and you educate them?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Lastly, would you describe yourself as a servant leader? And if yes, can you give an example of your ability to display this trait?
I think so, yes. Actually, in reading about it, it's very much like my personal philosophy. I think it's like I feel called to serve. I think it's important to serve others, not only professionally in my nursing career, but my family, my friends, church, in the community. My kids are involved in Boy Scouts. I was volunteer there, and Vacation Bible School, and so I just feel strongly that we're put here to serve others, or at least that's my calling. And so that flows over into my into the nursing profession, which is probably why I chose to go into nursing, one of the reasons in the first place. So yeah, I do feel like that, because being a servant leader, you're a servant first, and then a leader second, kind of by example. And that's sort of how I feel,
Great.
And go ahead. I was just going to say that I had a wonderful mentor when I was first out of nursing school. My nurse manager was, she was wonderful. That she was I would describe her as a servant leader. She would get down in the trenches, and she'd be the first one to come and help you change get somebody off the bedpan or do whatever needed done. And so that really made an impression on me early on in my nursing career, because it wasn't just somebody behind a desk telling me, well, this is how you should do it. And, because I have had other leaders, higher up that say, work harder, work smarter, not harder.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, well, what's that?
What does that really mean?
What does that really
Right.
mean? But the nurse manager, she was right there with you, and so always willing to help and willing to build people up. That encouragement, I think, is a big part of it. She was always very encouraging to new nurses and nurses that have been there for a long time, to build people up, encourage staff development, professional development. She sent me for classes and stuff because they were kind of, working into the management position. And so yeah, she was a great example to me of just how to be a servant leader.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Lisa.
Thank you.